Hey everyone, in this session I'm going to show how you can build portable CD pipelines for Nomad using Vault and Dagger. I am Kyle Penfound. I'm a solutions engineer at Dagger, and we build a programmable CI/CD engine that runs your pipelines as containers. So first off, why portable? Like what's the benefit of going portable here? The number one thing is you can run your CI/CD locally. So think about all that time you spend waiting when you make a commit. You push it up to GitHub or wherever your CI/CD runs, and you're waiting for that feedback of whether your commit passed or failed. When you can run your entire pipeline locally, the same way it runs on your CI/CD platform, then you can have that instant feedback on the changes you've made. The other benefit of a portable CI/CD pipeline is testability. So when you make changes to that pipeline, how do you know that those changes didn't break everything or those changes are doing what you wanted to do? By having this portable pipeline that you can run in isolation, you can test the changes on that CI/CD pipeline itself as you're making them. Another big reason is to avoid CI vendor lock-in. So again, when your pipeline is something that is portable, where you can run it the same way on GitHub Actions and on CircleCI, then you're no longer locked in to a particular platform. So if you want to take advantage of one platform's features, or due to business requirements, you're switching from one platform to another. With these pipelines, you won't have to rebuild your entire CI/CD environment every time you switch vendors. And then another possible benefit of being portable is multi-CI. So let's say that you want some of your CI processes running in one CI platform or another, or one of your platforms goes down, you want to be able to run on CircleCI when GitHub Actions goes down. With a portable pipeline, that unlocks that capability for you. And so if these are also beneficial, like why don't we do this all the time? Well, here's the two biggest hard things, in my opinion, of creating a portable pipeline. The number one thing, maybe it's the most obvious one, is that you have these CI-specific definitions of a pipeline. So your GitHub Actions YAML, your CircleCI YAML, they're not the same. You can't translate from one to the other very easily. And so that set of pipeline definitions only runs on one specific platform. And the other hard part is environments and secrets. So many CI environments, you've got all of your credentials and CI requirements defined in that CI platform's environments and secrets provider. And so that when you run in any other environment, whether you try to run the same tasks on your machine or move those to another project in CircleCI, you lose those things that have been set. And on top of that, managing, rotating those credentials inside of your CI platform can be tedious. And so what you want to do to break free from this is A, write a portable pipeline using something like one of the Dagger SDKs. And then B, you want to remove those secrets and environment settings from your CI platform. So you want to define those in your secrets provider or in something that's detached from that particular environment. And so a great example of that we're going to use in this demo is Vault. And so for this demo, here's what our application looks like. So we've got a front end, a back end. The back end is this API that runs as a service in Nomad. It's a HTTP listener, so we send HTTP requests to it. It sends back things back to the client. This backend has a load balancer in Nomad as well, so that we can balance the load across all of our allocations running in Nomad. And then the front end is just the static site that we've deployed to Netlify. And if you want to check out the demo code right now, and I'll show this link again at the end, it's at github.com/kpenfound/hello nomad. So when we make a change to this application, here's what our CI/CD process looks like at a high level. So we make a git commit, and once that commit has been pushed, then it'll kick off our CI/CD processes. And so for our backend, that means we're going to run go test to make sure that our Go application is passing all of its unit tests. And then we run a Go build. And that Go build actually depends on secrets from Vault. And so we're connecting to our secrets provider at that stage. Once we've built our binary for our application, we want to package that in an image that we're going to ship to Nomad. So we're going to do this image build and push that to Docker Hub. And that Docker Hub push also requires credentials from Vault. And then once it's pushed up to Docker Hub, then we want to tell Nomad to update our deployment with this updated task that we just pushed up. And then for our front end, we've got it running in Netlify again. So the CI/CD process is basically running a Netlify deploy on that static site. And again, that requires some secrets from Vault as well. Our cluster in this example is taken exactly from the Nomad reference architecture, which I've actually linked here at the bottom. But it's just the reference architecture deployment for Nomad. So we've got some Nomad servers and clients running, and we've got console running in that cluster as well. And so we'll have a look at that in a second. So now that we've kind of got like this high level idea of what our application looks like, let's actually jump into the code and go into our demo. So first of all, I mentioned Dagger a few times. Our pipeline is written in a Dagger SDK. And so again, Dagger is this programmable CI/CD engine to run your pipelines in containers. And so what that means is, again, that instant local testing, so you can run your pipelines anywhere. That portability, which we're going to really emphasize today. Caching, so again, as everything's running in containers, you get this benefit of this cache behind the scenes to not rebuild things that don't need to be rebuilt. Compatibility, so you can run this pipeline on anywhere that has a container runtime. And then cross-language. So our pipeline that we're looking at today is written using the Dagger Go SDK, but we've got a handful of SDKs out now, and you can write this pipeline in whatever programming language your team is comfortable with. So hopping over to Nomad, we've got this Nomad cluster with a couple of servers here. And in our jobs, we have Fabio, which is the load balancer that I mentioned for our Hello application. And we've got our Hello application itself that has 5 allocations running. And again, I mentioned this is running alongside this console cluster, which has our load balancer and server registered as well. And then just to show the load balancer, this is our 5 tasks that we've deployed. And our load balancer is distributing load across all of those tasks in our Nomad cluster. And then that's the back end. Our front end, again, is this fancy web page hosted on Netlify. And so that when we make changes, we're going to update this Netlify deployment. So let's hop over to the code. So over here in VS Code, we've got our Hello Nomad project and our main.go. This main.go is just that API. So we've got an HTTP listener that listens on 8080, and it returns this greeting along with this secret greeting in the message. So we do this greeting with our secret greeting, and we'll get into that secret greeting bit once we go through that pipeline and figure out how we get this into this application with our build flags. We've also got the test. So again, our greeting has to line up with what we expect that greeting function to return to us. And so, like I mentioned, we've got this running on Nomad. If I hop over to my terminal, we can actually curl that and get the response back, and it's saying greetings Nomad. And so that secret is actually coming from Vault during our build step. And so if we look at Vault real quick, we'll see that at our key value store at Hello Nomad, we've got this field greeting, and the value of that greeting is Nomad. So we'll see how that gets pulled into the build process once we start going through this build pipeline. So let's make a change to this and start looking at what this CI/CD process looks like. So instead of saying greetings, let's just say hello. And then we want to update our test because, again, we're testing that this matches against our greetings function. So we'll say hello, and then we'll make a change to our front end too, so we can see both of these things change. So instead of saying greetings from Netlify, let's say greetings HashiTalks. Now let's commit this and then push this up to GitHub. So we'll see our greetings have changed here, and we'll add these and commit them. So we changed greeting to hello. Let's push that up. And so when that runs, you can see in this project we've got a .github and a .circleci. So we're going to show how the same kind of pipeline can run on both of those CI platforms as well as locally. So looking real quick at our CircleCI config, it's super brief, and we'll go through what the pipeline as code looks like after this. But again, we're going to be pushing this image to Docker Hub, so we get our Docker credentials and authenticate Docker to Docker Hub, and then we run that Dagger pipeline by just saying go run ci/main.go. And so we'll look at this ci/main.go in a minute. And that's our whole pipeline. So all we needed was Docker and a go runtime to be able to run this pipeline. And then over on the GitHub side, it's configured a bit differently with the network, so we have a few different things running here as well. But again, we've got Go. We grab our Docker credentials from Vault, and we authenticate Docker, and then we just run this Go pipeline. So let's have a look at that Go pipeline now. So here's our main function in main.go. And the very first thing here is we're going to grab a Dagger client. So we say dagger.connect, and we pass some arguments in there. And this client is what we're going to use to actually build our CI/CD pipeline using our Go SDK. And so with this client, we're going to first pass this into our backend build. So again, we've got the backend and front end that go through those different paths. Our backend here is going to do this backend build and then return, and then our front end is going to build after that. So if we jump over to our backend build first and kind of walk through that step by step, the first thing we're going to do is grab our project. So if I jump to this, we can see what that means here. We're using that Dagger SDK to look at our host and grab the workdir. So that's the local working directory on our machine where our code lives. So we're going to grab all that code from our machine, and we're going to exclude something. So again, earlier I mentioned caching. To make sure our cache is as reliable as possible, we want to exclude all these things that are irrelevant to our application build. So we exclude our CI directory, a bunch of our project directories, and the website. Going back to our backend build here, so we've got that project, and that's a reference to our Go project on our machine. And then we're going to do this multi-platform image build. So we want to be able to run this container on both AMD 64 and ARM 64 architectures. So we define this build matrix of these two options, and then in our code we iterate through those two options, and for each one we're going to do our app build and then eventually publish that. So let's look at our app build, and again, this is all using the Dagger SDK to build these things. So we've got this app build function where we first build our Go application, and so we're building these containers as code, and some of these things look a lot like a Docker file, and that's because it's doing very similar operations, but you're writing these, you're declaring these containers in your Go code instead. And so we're building these on the fly, and we're saying, hey Dagger, give me a container from the Golang 1.19 image, or the base. And then on that base, we're going to mount our project. So again, this is the reference to our local working directory. We're going to mount that project at /source. And then we're going to set that container's working directory to /source so that anything we execute in that container will be in that context. Then we set some environment variables, and by doing this in this way of like building this function that defines your whole build, you don't have to worry about redefining these kinds of things everywhere in your organization that you want to do builds. You just define them in one place and reuse this Go module. So I've defined my environment that's required for doing my Go build. I'm mounting this secret. So remember earlier, we get that secret greeting and add that to our greeting output, right? So I'm mounting this as a secret variable in this greeting. And this thing that I kind of skimmed over before is that greeting that we want to pass in from Vault. So let's jump over there and have a quick look at that. And so once again, we're building a container on the fly. This container is going to be from Vault latest. We're going to give it what it needs to authenticate to our Vault server. And then it's going to get that particular field, which is the greeting field that we saw earlier in Vault. And it's going to pass that back to us as a Dagger secret. And so once we have that greeting as a Dagger secret, we map that to our container. Our container is ready for building. The first thing we're going to run here, we're going to exec in this container go test. So we test our application. Once we know that it's passed all of our unit tests, then we actually build our application. And so we're going to exec this go build, and we're going to pass in this build flag to say main.secret greeting is that secret greeting that we've mounted in that secret environment. And so that when we do that go build, that key that we just pulled from Vault in that other container, in that container running Vault, we're going to pass that to our go build, and that's going to be in our binary. And then our output of that build is going to be this hello binary. And so if you've worked with multi-stage builds before, this is kind of what we're doing next. So we've built this Go binary in a Golang 1.19 image. Now we want to take that binary and put that into an image that we actually want to deploy to our infrastructure. So we're going to grab a new container now from Alpine. And this time, the container's platform, again, we're iterating through those two platforms in our main.go, the Linux AMD 64 and the Linux ARM 64. And so we want that container to be the appropriate platform. And once we have that platform, then we do this multi-stage build, and this is kind of the equivalent of a Docker file copy from, where we're saying, in builder, we have this file /source hello. We want our new image that's using Alpine to have that same file at /bin hello. And then once that's in our new container, then we say the entry point of that container is /bin hello, so that we run this image. We're going to be running that that application we just built. So now we go back to our main Go. We've got our two images, the AMD 64, ARM 64, that have our built binaries inside of them. We publish them to Docker Hub, right? So we just call this, using the Dagger SDK, we say container.publish, and we're going to publish them to this address, which is my Docker Hub, Kyle Penfound /hello Nomad with the latest tag. Once those are published, then we want to tell Nomad to actually run our new image. So when we published this, it gave us back the full reference to that new image that we pushed up. And so we're going to pass that over to our deploy Nomad job function to say, hey, the hello Nomad service should be running this new ref now. And so looking at this function, we actually use the Nomad API Go client. So one of the cool benefits of writing or CI/CD in code is that, in the Go ecosystem, you can pull in whatever Go modules that you need to use. You don't have to rely on things being available in, if you're running your things in GitHub Actions, you don't have to rely on a GitHub action for a thing. Or if you're in CircleCI, you don't have to rely on an orb for a thing. In Go, you can just pull in whatever relevant clients you need to use. So in this function, we've pulled in the Nomad client, and we've configured it with our Nomad address. And we take that image reference of the image we just pushed up, and we create a job ref with that. So again, we've got this Nomad job struct where we give it the same name. This defines our whole job, but we want it to be running that specific image ref. And again, if you go to the GitHub repo, you can go through this whole job struct and look at it in detail. We'll just skim over it for now. And once we have that job ref, then we're going to talk to the Nomad API and say, register this job. And then we've deployed the backend. Once the backend's deployed, again, we want to deploy the front end. And that's actually super quick as well. So we, again, get our front end project. And if I go to that, it's similar to how we got the backend, except we're just looking at the host and grabbing the website directory. And that's it. Once we have that website directory, we want to deploy that to Netlify. So we go to this deploy Netlify section. Again, we've got two secrets, our credentials for Netlify. So our Netlify site name and our Netlify token. And we get those from Vault once again. And then we get a container that has node 16. We install the Netlify CLI on it. We mount our website at /build. And then we give this container our Netlify credentials and say Netlify deploy that /build where we mounted the website. And that's it. So that'll actually deploy to Netlify. And so that's our whole pipeline, right? If I go back here, we've done the front end, and that's it. So again, that's running in both GitHub and CircleCI. And so if we go over here and look at GitHub, here's that commit that we pushed up a few minutes ago, that changed greeting to hello. And so if we look at this real quick, we can go down and look at the Dagger pipeline, and we can see it running all of our steps that we defined in that pipeline, and it's running those for both of those platforms that we defined. And then it runs our go test, it runs our go build, it pushes up our new image, and then it gets the front end container build and pushes that up to Netlify. And if we go over to CircleCI, we'll see the exact same thing, but in CircleCI this time. So if we go down here, look at our Dagger pipeline, we'll see actually in this case, a lot of things are cached because I've set up CircleCI a little bit different from GitHub in a way that can actually reuse our Dagger cache between runs. And so these steps that, again, don't need to be rebuilt every single time, if nothing's changed in that cache, we benefit from reusing the caches, and it makes our CI really, really fast. And so we've pushed up our image, and we've deployed things to Netlify. And so if we actually go to this website, we can say greetings HashiTalks, because remember, forever ago at this point, this is what we changed our greeting to. And if I go back to my terminal and we do that curl again, we can see, hopefully once it returns, sometimes it's a bit slow. And this is just my particular node struggling, so maybe we'll give it a different node. And I'll say, hello Nomad. So once again, that second argument is coming from Vault, right? So let's go ahead and change that real quick. We'll hop over to our terminal. Remember that was hello Nomad. So let's go ahead and patch that to say hello HashiTalks instead. So our key now for that greeting field is hello HashiTalks. And this time, let's go ahead and run this pipeline on our machine instead. So if I say go run ci main.go, we're running the exact same pipeline that we ran in CircleCI and GitHub, and we're using the exact same credentials because, again, we're not storing those inside of our particular platform. But this time I can make this change real quick, run it on my machine, and it'll go through those same steps. It'll build that multi-platform image and push that up to Docker Hub. And then once that's done, we can run our curl again and see the updated message. So this will just take a second because we're running our go test. And our test is passed for one of our platforms. And then in a second, we'll see it pass on the other platform. Now we're doing that go build with that secret greeting, which again, we've changed to HashiTalks. And then over here, we're doing the multi-stage build with that binary. So we've gotten the Alpine image. We're putting that built binary into Alpine. We've still got the go test running on the other architecture, and that has finally passed, and so it's going to do its go build. And then once these builds complete, we're going to push that up to Docker Hub, and once it's up at Docker Hub, we'll deploy Nomad. Once it's deployed Nomad, we're going to deploy things to Netlify. And it's just going to sync that website directory with Netlify. And so that's going to be done here in a second. Just waiting for the internet. Awesome. And then if we curl out again, and now that one's being slow. Awesome. And that one's still updating, I guess. Hey, there we go. Okay, so now we've got our updated task running on that machine, and that timing worked out great because we could see the tasks switch over to our new greeting, which we've changed to HashiTalks. Again, that was just pulling from Vault and injecting it into that build. So, quick little recap because we just went through so much of that so quickly. We've built a portable pipeline. So we use the Dagger SDK. We've made our environment, our secrets portable by putting them in Vault. And we've been able to build this same application on 3 different CI platforms, essentially, in GitHub, in CircleCI, and on my machine. We've stored those secrets in vaults so that we can have one team manage all the secrets for everywhere rather than having to copy paste and have that copy paste team into whatever CI platform you're running. We've pushed that image to Docker Hub. We've deployed to Nomad. We've deployed to Netlify. And then once again, this demo code is at github.com/kpenfound/hello nomad. Thanks for watching. If you want to know more about Dagger, check out dagger.io. There's tons of information there, tons of docs. You can also get to our Discord there. That's where you can jump in, ask questions, join the weekly community call, and so on. You can see what we're building over at github.com/Dagger. And then you can see what I'm building, both these demos and other Dagger projects, at github.com/kpenfound. Thanks for watching.